Stephen Covey said, "People listen with the intention to reply, not the intention to understand." Now, when I first heard that, I began to think about the way in which we listen and the way in which we interact with others. And could we be doing it better? Could we be better engaged, have a real connection, and understand others better and fully? There seems to be a lot out there which tells you how to pay attention. You should nod, you should smile, you should look the other person in the eye. But to tell you the truth, you don't really need to show anyone that you're paying attention if you really are paying attention. And if you are, then you will be better engaged, you will have a better connection. Something else that I really liked when I heard it was Nelson Mandela talking about his father, who was a tribal leader, and he spoke about how he would sit in a circle, so everyone who attended these meetings felt that they had equal weighting within this meeting, but then also how he wouldn't speak. When Nelson Mandela was just a child, he would attend these meetings and he would talk about how his father would listen for the whole meeting and he would talk at the end, and this gave him an advantage of listening and assessing in his mind to give better responses. So I think listening is very, very key, and it's funny because we can talk at a rate of around about 225 words per minute, but we can listen at more than double that rate, which means that when we're listening, a lot of the time our brain has capacity to do more. And as I'm sure we all know, it begins to wonder, it begins to think certain other things. As I mentioned, what Stephen Covey said, we get something in our mind and we're not really listening to what the other person is saying because we want to reply with what's come into our mind. So having a look into listening further and thinking about how we can improve it, I've put together around about 7 tips that I think would be very useful, that I try to implement further into my life as well, to make sure that I'm better engaged with other people. So the first one is be present. If you're having a conversation with someone, don't think about what you need to be doing after that conversation. Don't think about what has happened in the past. Don't be half in it. Be fully in it and do listen. The second point is let someone have their own opinion. Someone might say something that is the opposite of what you may believe, or maybe in conflict with the opinion that you have. But to listen to others, set your personal opinion aside and really listen to what that other person has to say. Everyone has something that they can learn from someone else. Everyone is an expert in something. So take the time to appreciate that even if it's not what your opinion is and it's completely in conflict with it, to listen and understand and even learn from what the other person has to say. Now, if you're listening, then you're engaged and you're taking all the information in. Then the third point, which brings us on to ask questions, open-ended questions. So not closed questions, because generally when you ask a closed question, then you are emphasizing a particular point. Someone may be telling you an experience and you may say, were you terrified? So they're going to be focusing on the word terrified, whether it's a yes or a no. However, if you ask an open-ended question, how did you feel? Then that person can express with their own words and not be closed to a yes or a no. Number 4, if you think of something, continue listening. So often I see people having a conversation where someone is saying something and the other person clearly has something that's come into their mind, whether it's their own story or their own opinion or something that they remember that they really wanted to share. And then for the rest of the conversation, they're not really listening. And then when that person has finished what they were saying, they seem to kind of pull something out the blue, and they really haven't heard the remainder of that question, the conversation. So try to, if something comes to your mind, try to just park it to the side, let it go, and continue listening. The sixth point that I want to make is, the fifth point that I'd like to say is, if someone is talking and they ask you whether you know or you don't, be honest. If you don't know something, say you don't know. Too many people don't want to sound like they don't know something, and they say, yeah, of course I know that. If you're listening and you're engaged and you want to learn and fully understand, if you don't know, then that person will give you further information to help you better understand. So if you don't know, say you don't know. The sixth point, before I jumped to the fifth earlier, don't equate your experience to that of others. So if someone's telling you how they feel or what's happened, don't talk about your experience to show that that moment can be a focus on yourself. You don't have to make that moment about you. All experiences are individual. So let that person tell their experience, tell their story, and listen. You can express empathy, but don't try to make it about yourself. And number 7, when you have information that you're listening to, when you come back with a response or a question or to better understand, stay away from the weeds. So if you come back with something and a comment, you don't have to start going into all the details of when you were younger, or this happened on this date and that person and names and just getting into such an abundance of information that it becomes very hard for that person to come back and continue that conversation. It's very much like you're just taking the limelight and just giving them all this information. So hopefully with those 7 tips, be present. Number 2, let the person have their own opinion, even if it's conflicting with yours. 3, if you're listening, have questions, open-ended questions to get more information. Number 4, if you do think of something, park it aside and continue listening. Number 5, if you don't know, say you don't know. Number 6, don't equate your experience to theirs. And number 7, when you do have something to say, stay out the weeds. Now, with all of this together, I really do hope it helps you listen better, be better engaged with that person, have a better connection. And it helps in many, many aspects, whether it's personal relationships, whether it's within work, or any other way in life. I'm hoping it will help you listen more, be more open, and be prepared to be engaged, and also be amazed by what you learn about people when you are listening better. As I mentioned earlier, everyone is an expert in something. Everyone has had more experience within some aspect of life or in a certain field than whoever they're talking to has as well. And we don't know that, we don't appreciate that, we don't learn that until we are listening in a very present and open way. So hopefully you found that useful. If you do have any comments, if you do have any questions, please add them in the comment section. Do share this with anyone who you believe would find it useful. As always, thanks for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.